Hello friends, welcome to Prashant IAS. So friends, in the last class, we have started our discussion with the fundamental rights. And in this class, we will continue our discussion further. So friends, fundamental rights are classified into 6 broad categories. Okay, so there are 6 broad categories or groups in which fundamental rights are classified. So the first broad category or the group is fundamental rights related to equality. So fundamental rights related to equality are given from Article 14 to Article 18. Means Article 14, Article 15, Article 16, Article 17 and Article 18 deals with the right to equality. Okay, so right to equality is given in 5 articles of the Indian Constitution from Article 14 to Article 18. Then comes fundamental rights related to freedom. So friends, fundamental rights related to freedom are given from Article 19 to Article 22. So Article 19, Article 21, Article 19, Article 20, Article 21 and Article 22. So these 4 articles deals with all the rights related to freedom. Okay, so from Article 19 to Article 22, rights related to freedom are given. Then comes fundamental rights against exploitation. So fundamental rights against exploitation are given from Article 23 to Article 24. So Article 23 and 24 deals with the fundamental rights against exploitation. Then comes fundamental rights related to religion. So friends, from Article 25 to Article 28, all the fundamental rights related to the freedom of religion are given. Then comes fundamental right related to culture and language. Fundamental rights related to culture and education. Okay, so Article 29 and Article 30 deals with the fundamental rights related to culture and education. We can also call them cultural and educational rights. Friends, Article 31 was right to property and it was deleted from the list of fundamental rights. And now it is no more a fundamental right. Okay, so we will discuss about right to property later on. So now right to property is no more a fundamental right. Okay, it was deleted from the list of fundamental right and it is very much diluted also. Okay, so we will discuss about right to property in a separate class later on. Then friends, the 6th category is right to constitutional remedies. So right to constitutional remedies is given in Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. And right to constitutional remedies is the most important fundamental right. Okay, so when we will study about right to constitutional remedy, then I will tell you about the importance of this fundamental right. So friends, earlier there were 7 broad categories. So the 7th category was right to property, but now right to property is no more a fundamental right. So now there are only 6 broad categories. Okay, so friends, we will discuss about all these rights one by one in a very detailed manner. Friends, some fundamental rights are only available to Indian citizens. Means these rights are not guaranteed to the foreigners. These are only guaranteed to the citizens of India. So these are the rights under Article 15, Article 16, Article 19, Article 29 and Article 30. So there are 5 fundamental rights which are only exclusively guaranteed to Indian citizens. No foreigner have these fundamental rights. So if you are a citizen of India, then you have all these fundamental rights. So we will discuss about these rights one by one in detail. So let's begin. So friends, first of all comes Article 14. So what is Article 14? Definitely we all know Article 14 deals with right to equality. So what is Article 14? So Article 14 reads like, state shall not deny to any person equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. Okay, so Article 14 says 2 things. Okay, so what Article 14 says? Article 14 says state shall not deny to any person. State means the government. Okay, so state shall not deny to any person. First, equality before the law means state shall not deny to any person equality before the law, and state shall not deny to any person equal protection of the laws. Okay, or in other words, we can say that it is the duty of the state to provide equality before the law and equal protection of the law to all the persons. Okay, so state shall not deny to any person equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. So friends, now we will study about these both topics one by one in detail, because these both topics are very important. Now what is equality before the law? So this concept was originated in England, means this concept came into existence in England. Okay, so where this concept was originated? This concept was originated in England. Now friends, it is a negatively worded concept. Now what does it mean? So it means that it stops the state from doing any kind of discrimination in the country. Okay, so what is it doing? It is actually stopping the state from doing any kind of discrimination with the people of the country. Okay, so it is like a negative obligation on the state, means state cannot do any kind of discrimination. So we can say that it is a negatively worded concept, means it is a negative obligation on the state. Now what is the meaning of equality before the law? So friends, it means the absence of privileges enjoyed by an individual in the eyes of law. So what does it mean? It means that, or equality before the law means that absence of privileges enjoyed by an individual in the eyes of law. Now what does it mean? It means that law should not provide any special right or any special privilege to any person of the country. Okay, so law should not provide any special right or any special privilege to any person of the country. Okay, whether he is very rich, whether he is poor, whether he belongs to any religion, any caste, whether he is a prime minister or he is a peon. Okay, so law do not provide any special right to any person of the country, and all the persons in the country are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, so all the persons are equal in the eyes of law. Law does not provide any special right to any person. All the persons are equal in the eyes of law, whether he belongs to any religion, whether he is rich or poor, whether he is an IAS officer or he is a peon, whether he is a prime minister or he is anyone. Okay, now friends, all persons irrespective of their rank or position are equal before the law. So it also means that all the persons in the territory of the country, so all the persons in the territory of the India, irrespective of their rank or position, means law don't care. Law doesn't care what is their rank. Law doesn't care what is their position. Okay, whether he is a IAS officer or he is a beggar, whether he is a prime minister or he is a peon. Okay, whether he is the richest man of India or he is a very poor person. So law doesn't care about his rank. Law doesn't care about his position, but all are equal in the eyes of law. All the persons in a country are equal in the eyes of law. Okay, now friends, it does not guarantee complete equality. It only guarantees judicial equality. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that it does not guarantee complete equality but only judicial equality. Now friends, this definition is little bit technical. Okay, and I think that you all must be finding difficult to understand this. So I will give you a very beautiful example so that you all can understand the concept of equality before the law. So friends, here on the screen you can see the image of a beggar on left and image of a very rich person on the right. So you can see the condition of beggar. Okay, so the image of beggar is given on the left side, and you can also see the condition of the rich man. Okay, so he is very rich. As you can see, he is having lots of money, he is having lots of dollars with him. Okay, he is having lot of gold with him, he is taking cigar. Okay, he is having a bottle of wine, or I don't know what drink it is. Okay, so he is a very rich person, he has lot of money, he has lot of gold. Okay, and he is very fat also. Okay, so he is a fat cat. So friends, on the right side you can see the image of a very rich person, and on the left side you can see the image of a beggar. So he is the poorest person. Now friends, now with the help of these two diagrams, I will explain you the concept of equality before the law. So friends, beggar is a very poor person, and on one hand there is a very rich person. Then also these both persons are equal in the eyes of law. Now it does not guarantee complete equality. Now what does it mean? So it means that definitely beggar is physically very big and this man is very fat, he is physically powerful. Moreover, beggar does not have any money. Beggar is very poor. He is moneyless. But this man sitting on the chair, he is very, very powerful. He is fat. He has muscular power as well as he has money power. He can do anything with his money. So he is very, very rich. So equality before the law does not mean complete equality. Means definitely they both are not equal. Beggar is poor and he is rich. Beggar is weak and he is powerful. So equality before the law does not mean equality before law does not mean complete equality. Then what does it mean? It means the equality before equality in the eyes of law. Means beggar and this rich person both are equal in the eyes of law. Now what does it mean? It means that the same laws of the country will apply on this beggar and the same laws of the country will apply on this rich person. Suppose this beggar has committed a murder. He committed a murder. So definitely judge will imprison him and then judge will definitely give him capital punishment or life imprisonment. So if suppose this beggar has killed someone, then what judge will do? Definitely judge will give him life imprisonment or death punishment. Now suppose this rich person has killed someone. So friends, if this rich person kills someone, then definitely the same laws will apply on this rich person also. So there is no separate set of laws to apply on poor and rich. The same set of laws will apply on poor person as well as rich person. So the same set of laws will apply on poor person as well as the rich person. So if this rich person has committed a murder, then definitely judge will give him capital punishment, means death punishment or at least life imprisonment. So equality before the law means all persons in the country are equal in the eyes of law. Same laws will apply on all the persons. Same laws will apply on beggar and same laws will apply on the richest person of the India. Same law will apply on peon. Same laws will apply on the prime minister of the country. So all are equal in the eyes of law. Now it also means that this beggar can file a case in the court of law against this rich person. And this rich person can file a case against this beggar in the court of law. And a case can be filed against this beggar in the court of law. And similarly, the case can be filed against this rich person in the court of law. So it means that everybody can sue and everybody can get sued in the court of law. Means court is applied similarly to all the people of India. So a legal case can be initiated against any person of India, no matter who he is. So a legal case can be initiated against any person of India. Similarly, any person in India can initiate a legal case, can file a legal complaint against any other person in the territory of India. So what is the main essence of equality before the law? So it means that the same laws will apply on all the persons of the country, no matter whether he is rich or poor, no matter to which religion he belongs, no matter to which caste he belongs, no matter he is male or female. Same laws will apply on all the persons in India. All the persons can file a case against other persons in the court of law, and case can also be filed against any person in the court of law. Means all person can sue and all person can be sued in the court of law. So equality before the law means all the persons in the territory of India are equal in the eyes of law. Means the same set of law will apply on all the persons. If beggar has committed a crime, then same punishment will be given to beggar. And if this rich person has committed a crime, then the same punishment will be given to this beggar also. To this rich person also. So friends, now I hope that you all must be clear with the concept of equality before the law. So what is equality before the law? You all must be clear with that. Now friends, there are some exceptions to the concept of equality before the law. Means this concept does not work in these conditions. So what are the exceptions? So the first exception is president or governor of the state are not answerable to the court of law for discharge of their official functions. So we all know that in India we have a president and each state has its different its own governor. Okay, so we know that there is a president of India and president is the constitutional head of India. Similarly, governor is the constitutional head of any state. So each state has its own governor and we have a president for entire India. So friends, this statement means that if president or any governor is doing his official work, okay, so I have in previous classes also I have explained you that what is official work and what is personal work. For example, if president is imposing state emergency or president rules over any state, then this is his official function. Okay, so official function, so some functions are official functions of the president and some functions are his personal works. Okay, so suppose if president is imposing president rule or state emergency over any state, then this is the official function of the president. Now suppose another condition, now president is at, for example, now there is some governor, now suppose president is at his home and he is fighting with his neighbor. Okay, so this is his personal work. Okay, so what is official work? Official work means, for example, if he is imposing president rule or state emergency over any state. And what is the example of personal work? So for example, if he is fighting with his neighbor, okay, if he is going on a long drive with his wife, okay, so there are separate works which are known as personal works and there are separate works which are known as official works. Okay, so if president or the governor of any state is doing his personal work, if president or governor of any state is doing his official work, okay, means he is doing that work in his official capacity as the president of India or as the governor of some state, then he is not answerable to the court of law for the discharge of his official function. Okay, so if president or the governor of any state is doing his official work, then he is not answerable to court of law, means then case cannot be filed against him, then case cannot be initiated in the court of law against president or the governor. For example, if president has imposed a president rule or state emergency over any state, and even if you are thinking that the president rule is imposed wrongly, then also you cannot file a case against the president in the court of law. Okay, and there are many reasons why this exception is given. So first, for example, we can say that president cannot apply president rule, president cannot impose president rule on his own discretion. Okay, why? Because president is bound by the advice of council of ministers and the prime minister. So if president is imposing president rule on any state, then you can definitely assume that he must be doing this with the advice of prime minister and council of ministers. Why? Because he is bound by the advice of PM and the council of ministers. Okay, so what is first exception? That president or governor of the state are not answerable to court of law for discharge of their official functions. Now what is the second exception? So no civil proceedings in cases where relief is claimed can be started against president or governor except before serving 2 months of notice. Now what does it mean? So again I will give you an example so that you can understand it very easily. So friends, suppose there is a governor of some state, okay, and there is a person who is saying in the court that this governor has taken a loan of rupees 5 lakh from me and now he is not returning to my loan. Okay, now what is loan? What is money related matter? They are civil cases. Okay, so now suppose there is a person who is saying that governor has taken a loan from me, a loan worth 5 lakh and now governor is not returning my money. Okay, so now this loan, what is this loan? This is a civil matter. So in this case, no legal case can be initiated against the governor except before serving the 2 months notice. Now what does it mean? It means that now if you want to file a case against the governor, then you have to give him a notice. Okay, and after giving him a legal notice, so after the 2 months of giving him a legal notice, okay, so after the 2 months of giving him notice, then only you can file the case against him. Okay, so if there is any civil case, no civil proceedings in cases where relief is claimed. Okay, so here he was claiming the relief that I need 5 lakh rupees with interest amount. Okay, 5 lakh was the principal amount. He was also claiming interest amount. Okay, so he was claiming the relief. So no civil proceedings in cases where relief is claimed can be started against president or governor except before serving 2 months of notice. So if you want to initiate a legal case against the governor, then first of all you have to inform him by giving him a notice. And after informing him, after 2 months of informing him, you can initiate a case against him. Okay, so this is the second exception. Now what is the third exception? So third exception is no criminal proceedings whatsoever can be started or continued against president or governor. Now what does it mean? So again I will give you one example. Suppose friends, there is a governor of one state and he has killed a person. Okay, so killing a person, murder is a criminal case. So no criminal case can be initiated against him. So if he has killed someone, then also case cannot be initiated against him. Now you will say that sir, this is injustice. So it is not injustice. Why? Because first of all, governor will be removed from his post. Okay. So first of all, president will remove the governor from his post. And once he is removed from his post, then only the case can be initiated against him. Okay, so he will also not go unpunished. But first of all, he will be removed. And after that, case will be initiated against him. Okay. Now, what is the fourth exception? So, member of parliament cannot be called in court as a witness during the session of parliament. Okay. So, suppose if the session of parliament is going on, so we know that there are 3 sessions of the parliament. Okay. So, suppose if there is a session of the parliament is going on, okay, then a MP cannot be called in the court of law as a witness. Okay, suppose there is a MP and he is eyewitness of some murder case or any case. Okay, so even if he is a eyewitness of the case, then also he cannot be called in the court for as a witness. So this is the fourth exception of the equality before law. So friends, now let's move further to another concept. So the next concept is rule of law. So what is rule of law? So friends, this concept was also originated in England. Okay, so where rule of law was originated, so this concept came into existence or originated in England. Now it is an outfall of equality before the law, means it is an outcome or it is a result of the equality before the law. Okay, so it is an outcome or the result of the principle of equality before the law. Okay, now friends, rule of law means law is supreme. Okay, so what is the meaning of rule of law? Rule of law means law is supreme. Now what is the meaning that law is supreme? So it means that there is no arbitrary power to prevail in this country and there is absolute supremacy of regular law of the country. Okay, so what is rule of law? What is its meaning? So it means law is supreme. And what is the meaning of law is supreme? So law is supreme means there is no arbitrary power to prevail in this country. Means no person can do arbitrary behavior in the country, whether he is a prime minister or a peon. Okay, whether he is president or any person, whether he is the richest person or he is the beggar of the country. Okay, so no person is allowed to do arbitrary behavior. Arbitrary behavior means you are doing whatever is coming to your mind. Okay, you are doing without thinking, you are doing whatever is coming to your mind. Okay, so no arbitrary behavior is allowed in the country. Okay, there is a absolute supremacy of regular law of the country. Means who is supreme? Law is supreme. No person in the country is supreme. Even the Chief Justice of Supreme Court is not supreme. Prime Minister is not supreme. President is not supreme. Member of Parliament are not supreme. The richest person of India is not supreme. Okay, the poorest person of India is not supreme. People of any religion are not supreme. People belonging to any caste are not supreme. So no person in the country is supreme. Who is supreme? Law is supreme. Okay, so who is supreme? Law is supreme. There is no rule of any person. Okay, so in India there is not the rule of any person. In India no person rules. There is not the rule of any person. Who rules? Actually there is the rule of law. Okay, so rule of law means law is king. Now friends, rule of law means lex supremus and lex supremus means law is supreme. Okay, so what is the meaning of rule of law? Rule of law means lex supremus and lex supremus means law is supreme. So law is supreme means no person in the country is supreme. All the persons in the country are below law. All the persons in the country are subordinate to law. Okay, no matter who that person is, all the persons, keep my words, all the persons in the country are subordinate to law. all the persons in the country are below law and law is above all the persons. So who is the real king of the country? So law is the real king of the country. Who rules in the country? Law rules in the country. That's why the concept is named as rule of law. So what is the meaning of rule of law? So rule of law means law is supreme. All the persons of the country are subordinate to law. All the persons of the country are below law. And who is the real king? Law is the real king. So definitely law is the real king. Then everybody has to obey to law. Okay, then everybody has to obey law. Everybody has to do whatever law is saying. So nobody can do arbitrary behavior. Nobody can do whatever is coming to his mind. He has to act according to the words of law. Why? Because law is king and he has to follow the orders of his king. Okay, and so he has to follow what is written in the law. Now friends, rule of law has changed the philosophy of administration from rex lex to lex rex. Okay, so earlier what was the philosophy of administration? So earlier the philosophy of administration was rex lex. Rex lex means king is law. Okay, now what does it mean? It means that whatever king is saying, whatever words the king is saying, it is law and every person of the country has to follow that. But now this is not the philosophy of administration. The philosophy of administration is changed. And what is the current philosophy of administration in the country? It is lex rex. Lex rex means law is king. So who is king in the country? Law is king in the country. So everyone in the country is subordinate to law. So everybody has to do what law is saying. Everybody has to behave according to the words of law. So who is the real king? Who has the actual power? So law has the actual power and law is the real king. So this is the philosophy of current administration. Now friends, this philosophy means lex rex is very essential for maintaining the stability of the society and to prevent arbitrary behavior in the society. Why? Because if law is king, then everybody is below law, then everybody has to do whatever law is saying, then definitely nobody can do whatever is coming to his mind. Nobody can exploit others. Okay, so this will bring stability in the society and this will prevent the arbitrary behavior of the person. So this is the rule, this is the concept of rule of law. Now friends, I know that this concept is also a little bit technical. So now I will tell you the 3 principles of rule of law. And after studying these 3 principles of rule of law, you will become very clear with this concept. So there are 3 principles of rule of law. So what are these 3 principles? So the first principle of rule of law is nobody can be punished or made to suffer except for the violation of law. Okay, now what does it mean? It means that no person in the country, no person in the territory of India can be punished. Okay, he cannot be punished until he has not violated the law. Okay, so no person in the country, no person in India can be punished until he has violated the law. And government can only punish a person if he has violated a law. Okay, so no person can be punished until he has violated a law. And government can only punish a person, court can only punish a person if he has violated a law. So this is the first principle, means nobody can be punished or made to suffer except for the violation of the law. Now friends, that violation should be first established in the ordinary court of the land. Okay, for example, even if you know that this person has violated the law, then also you cannot punish him. First of all, it should be proved in the court that actually he has violated the law. Okay, so once it is proved in the court of law, then only government can punish him. So until it is not proved in the court of law that that person has actually violated the law, only then, until it is not proved in the court of law that that person has actually violated the law, until government cannot punish him. Government can only punish him when it is established, it is proved in the court of law that this person has actually violated the law. So friends, in last few months, we have listened about some cases in which police has killed the persons in the encounter. Okay. Now I will not say that whether these encounters were real or fake. You all are intelligent to judge it. Okay. I will not give any commentary over that. Okay. And moreover, I will also not take the name of any case. You all are intelligent enough to guess what I am trying to say and which case I am trying to talk about. So friends, when police kills someone, even without presenting him before a magistrate, then definitely it is a violation of the principle of rule of law. Okay, so definitely means I'm not saying that people are good or bad. Actually, people were supporting that work of policemen. Okay, people were actually supporting them, but actually nobody should be punished. Okay, nobody should be punished by the police until his crime is established in the court of law. Why? Because we don't know whether policemen are saying correct or not. We don't know whether they are saying right or not, whether they have caught the correct person or not. Okay, because they are also not Harish Chandra. Okay, so first of all, the violation of the law should be proved in the court of law. Okay, because police do not have the authority to punish someone. Only court have the authority to punish someone, and court also have authority to punish someone when his crime is proved. Okay, court also cannot do arbitrary behavior. Court can punish someone when his crime is proved. So first of all, that person should be presented before the magistrate. Okay, and then it is the duty of the magistrate to punish him. Okay, to give any punishment to him. Okay, but policemen should not punish him. Why? Because this is a clear cut violation of the principle of rule of law. Why? Because we don't know whether they were saying correct or not, whether he was the real criminal or not. Okay, whether police was trying to protect some big criminal by killing small criminals. Okay, it is also a possibility that policemen can kill someone, a small criminal, to protect some big criminal. Okay, or to protect some politicians. So according to me, police should not take the law in their hand. Police should not take law in his hand. Okay, because there is the rule of law in the country. Police is not the ruler of the country. Okay, who is the ruler of the country? Law is the ruler of the country. Okay, so let court decide. Okay, let the magistrate decide that whether punishment should be given to that person or not, whether that person has committed some crime or not. Okay, so it was a clear cut violation of the rule of law. Now friends, the first principle of the rule of law guarantees or assures that there is no arbitrary treatment in the country. Arbitrary treatment means anyone doing whatever is coming to his mind. For example, policeman killed someone out of anger. Policeman killed someone out of enmity. Okay, so if there is rule of law, then police do not have the power to punish someone arbitrarily. Police has to work according to the words of the law. Okay, police has to follow the orders of their senior. Police have to follow the order given by the law. Okay, so there is no arbitrary treatment in the country. All people will be treated according to the words of law. So this is the first principle of the rule of law, that nobody should be punished except for the violation of law, and that violation should be first established in the ordinary court of the land. Okay, and without establishing of his violation, means without establishment or proving of his crime, he should not be punished. Now friends, all persons must be subjected to the same ordinary law of land without any distinctions. Okay, so all persons must be subjected to same ordinary law of land without any distinctions. Now what does it mean? It means that all persons means all persons of the country, whether he is the richest person or the poorest person, whether he belongs to any religion, whether he is a Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, Parsi, anyone. Okay, whether he belongs to any caste, whether he is male or female. So all the persons, whether he is a prime minister or a peon, so all the persons of the country should be subjected to same ordinary law of land. Means same law should be applied to all the persons of the country. There should be no different set of law for different persons. Same provisions of law should be applied to same person. If a rich person kills someone, so he should be given capital punishment. So if poor person kills someone, so he should also be given capital punishment. So everyone should be allowed to sue and get sued before the court. Now what does it mean? It means that everyone should be allowed to file a case in the court of law against someone, and case can also be filed against that person. So it means that everyone should be allowed to sue and get sued before the court of law. Now what is the third principle of rule of law? So constitution is supreme law of land, and all the laws passed by the legislature in order to be valid must be consistent with the provisions of the constitution. Now what does it mean? It means that which law is the supreme law of the land. Okay, so we are talking about rule of law. So which law is the supreme law of land? So constitution is the supreme law of the land. So constitution is the boss of all the laws of land. And if if other laws want to survive in the country, if other laws want to remain in the existence, then they have to be consistent with the provisions of the constitution, means their provisions should not violate the provisions of the constitution. Okay, so the third principle is the constitution is the supreme law of land, means the highest law of land. Now friends, this principle of rule of law is different from that of England. Why? Because what is the practice in England? So in England, what happens that every enactment of the legislature becomes the part of their constitution. Means whatever legislature is saying, it becomes the part of their constitution. Okay, so there is no supremacy of constitution, there is the supremacy of legislature. Okay, so all the laws are equal in England. Okay, but in India, constitution is supreme. Okay, so constitution is the supreme law of land. So this is the third principle of rule of law followed in India. So friends, now let's move further to another concept. So the next concept is equal protection of the law. Okay, so now what is equal protection of the laws? So this concept was originated in USA. Okay, so where this concept was originated? This concept was originated in America. Means this concept came into existence in America. Now this is a positively worded concept. Now what does it mean? It means that it does not confer any negative obligation on the state. It is a positive obligation on the state. Okay. For example, here state is allowed to do discrimination to protect someone. Means state is allowed to do positive discrimination. Okay, so this concept is a positively worded concept, means it does not give any negative obligation on the state. Okay, so it gives some power to the state. Now what is the meaning of equal protection of the law? So it means that law will give equal treatment but in equal circumstances. Okay, so laws will give equal treatment but in equal circumstances, means if circumstances will change, then the treatment of law will also change. So we all have the equal protection of the law, means law will behave equally with us. Law will treat all of us equally but in equal circumstances. So law will give equal treatment but in equal circumstances. So what does it mean? So it means that there is no uniform application of law under all circumstances and situational variations have to be taken into consideration. So there is no uniform application of law under all circumstances and situational variations have to be taken into consideration. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that if circumstances will change, then the application of law will also change. So law will be applied equally but only in equal circumstances. Now friends, in order to explain you this definition more clearly, I will give you one example. So with the help of this example, you will be able to clearly understand that what is the meaning of equal protection of the law. So friends, here on the left side, see the laser pointer, there is a person named Rahul. Okay, so and Rahul has a gun in his hand and Rahul is firing the gun. Now below Rahul, okay, please see the laser point. Below Rahul, there is a person named Tukaram. Okay, so there is a person named Tukaram and Tukaram is driving his car. And this is a person on the right side and his name is Pappu. Okay, and Pappu is very happy. He is a very innocent boy and he is happily walking on the street. Okay, now there are two situations. So one by one, I will explain you each situation. Then you will understand clearly the meaning of equal protection of the law. So let's consider the first situation of car. Okay, so there is a person named as Tukaram and he is driving his car. Okay, and suddenly what happened that the brakes of his car got failed. Okay, and because brakes got failed, the car got uncontrolled and he accidentally hit the Rahul. Okay, so this person with his car hit the Rahul and Rahul was dead. So in this situation, this person has killed the Rahul. But he did it accidentally. His intentions were not to kill the Rahul. Now imagine the second situation. The second situation is with this person Rahul. Okay, so this person Tukaram killed the Pappu accidentally. He did not kill the Pappu with his intentions. Now the second situation is with Rahul. So this is a person Rahul and he has gun in his hand. And out of anger, suppose he is angry with Pappu. Okay, so this Rahul is a very dangerous person and he is angry with Pappu. So out of anger, he took his gun and he killed Rahul. He fired his gun and he killed Rahul. So now there are he fired his gun and he killed Pappu. So who killed whom? Rahul killed Pappu. So Rahul killed Pappu by his gun and out of anger. So there are two situations, and in both of the situations Rahul got killed. Okay, so Rahul is dead in both the situations. But there is a difference in both the situations. In first situation, Tukaram killed Rahul accidentally. Okay, there Tukaram did not have any intentions to kill the Rahul. Means he killed Rahul unintentionally. He killed Rahul accidentally. But in second situation, sorry, I am repeatedly saying Rahul. This is Pappu, and he got killed. Okay, so Tukaram killed Pappu accidentally. Okay, so what happened? That Tukaram by his car killed Pappu accidentally. But what happens in second situation? That out of anger, Rahul killed Pappu out of his choice. Rahul killed Pappu deliberately. Rahul had the intentions to kill Pappu. Okay. Now friends, what will happen? What judge will act in both the situations? So definitely, now you will say that, sir, law is same for both. Okay, so because there is rule of law, there is equality of law, so law will apply same to in both the conditions. So according to you, what should happen? Definitely Rahul should be given capital punishment, means death punishment, and definitely this person Tukaram should also be given death punishment, means capital punishment. Why? Because they both have finally killed Pappu. But friends, equal protection of the law says that situational variations have to be taken into consideration. Means the situation was different. Okay, the situation of Tukaram was different. Similarly, the situation of Rahul was also different. Tukaram did not want to kill Rahul, and Tukaram did not want to kill Pappu, and Tukaram killed Pappu out of ignorance, out of accident. Okay, so Tukaram killed Pappu unintentionally. Tukaram killed Pappu accidentally. Okay, so in this case, Tukaram is actually not guilty. It was just an accident. But Rahul killed Pappu deliberately. Rahul killed Pappu intentionally. Means it was the aim of the Rahul to kill Pappu. So in this case, what judiciary will do? What judge will do? So judge will take into consideration the situational variations, that both the situations are different. So actually, if you see that Tukaram is innocent because it was just an accident, so then what judge will do? Then judge will impose some compensation on him. Means because Rahul is dead and no one in his family to support him, so Tukaram has to give at least suppose 25 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees as compensation to the family of Rahul. Okay, or judiciary can suspend the driving license of Tukaram, or at most judiciary can give 1 or 2 year punishment to Tukaram. But if you will see the case of Rahul, then Rahul has killed Pappu intentionally. So now what judge will do? Now judge will give capital punishment or death punishment to Rahul. That Rahul is a very dangerous criminal. Okay, Rahul is a very dangerous criminal. He has killed Pappu. He can kill anyone out of anger. Okay, so situations were different. So now judge will give capital punishment or death punishment to Rahul, or judge can also give life imprisonment to Rahul. Okay, so life imprisonment or death punishment can be given to Rahul. So friends, now I hope that you all must be clear with the concept of equal protection of the law. So equal protection of the law means law will give equal treatment but in equal circumstances. And if your circumstances are different, then law will work differently for you. For example, the circumstances of Rahul and Tukaram were different. Okay, so law applied differently for them. In one case, Tukaram had to give only a fine of 25 lakh rupees, but Rahul has to give his life, because Rahul was given death punishment. Okay, so law will work equally but only in equal circumstances. Okay, and if circumstances are different, if situations are different, then law will not work equally. Now friends, it provides for positive or protective discrimination under which even the reservation policy is valid. Now what does it mean? So suppose there are two boys. There is a boy who is from a lower caste and he is very very poor. And there is a boy who is from a upper caste and he is very very rich. Okay, the boy of lower caste and poor boy, he studied in a village school. Okay, or he never been to school. He studied on his own. And the boy who is of upper caste and he is very rich, he went Delhi for his studies. and he studied in Cambridge school, okay, or in Delhi public school, or any school. I am not taking the name of any school, any very good school. So friends, you can see there is different situations, okay. There is no fair competition. Now suppose there is a vacancy for IAS. Now suppose there is a vacancy for any government exam, okay, or any position, then situations are different. Why? Because the boy of upper caste and rich family has an advantage over the boy of poor family, okay. Why? Because he has studied in a very good school, he had a very good education, he has a very good educational background, he is very rich also. But the boy who is poor, he has studied on his own, he had never been to school, okay. So in both of these cases the situations are different. So definitely law will work differently in both of these situations. So what law can say that, okay, I will give equal protection, but your circumstances are not equal, your circumstances are different, okay. So law will say, okay, this boy, the rich boy and the boy from upper caste, he needs what? He needs 100 marks to clear the exam. But this boy of lower caste who is poor, he actually needs the protection of law. Why? Because he is weak. So he needs the protection of state. His situations are worse. His situation is very bad. So now law will say that the state will say that this boy from lower caste and poor family, he only needs 90 marks to clear the exam. Okay, so the difference is not much, but the boy from upper caste needs 100 marks and the boy from lower caste needs 90 marks. Why? Because their situations were different. So reservation policy is also valid under equal protection of the law. Okay, so if you think that reservation policy is a violation of equality before the law and equal protection of the law, then this is wrong. So reservation policy is valid under equal protection of the law. Why? Because circumstances become different, and under different circumstances law will apply differently. So thus article 14 guarantees equality among equal. Means if you are equal, then law will apply equally to you, but if you are not equal, then law will not apply equally to you. So friends, now let's move further. So with this, your article 14 is completed. So now let's move to another article, article 15. So what is article 15? So article 15 says that prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. So what is article 15? Article 15 is prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Now what is this? So now we will study about article 15 in detail, and one by one we will study about all the clauses of article 15 and we will try to understand the real meaning of article 15. So the first is article 15 clause 1. So what article 15 clause 1 says? So friends, article 15 clause 1 says state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. Now what does it mean? So it means that state is not allowed to discriminate between the citizens of India. The government of India is not allowed to discriminate, to differentiate between the citizens of India only on the grounds of religion, means if they belong to different religions, race means if they belong to different race, caste means if they belong to different caste, sex means whether they are male or female, place of birth or any of them. Place of birth means where they born, okay, what is their birthplace, okay. So article 15 dictates the government that state cannot discriminate, state shall not discriminate against any citizens only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. So for example, suppose if there is a Muslim boy and there is a Hindu boy, then state cannot discriminate between them. There is a Sikh boy and there is a Christian boy, then state cannot discriminate between them. There is a girl and there is a boy, so state shall not discriminate between them. There is a there is a person of Negro race and there is a person of Aryan race, then state cannot discriminate between them. There is a person of Brahmin caste and there is a person of Srivastav caste, then state cannot discriminate between them. Okay, a person born in Jammu and Kashmir and a person born in for example Kerala, so state cannot discriminate between them. So article 15 clause 1 says that state shall not discriminate against any citizen only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. Now friends, I have highlighted the word only in red color. So word only is very very important. It has some significance. Why word only is needed? So it means that state shall not discriminate but only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. So it means that these conditions are not sufficient grounds for having discrimination under equal protection of the law. But these conditions must be accompanied by some other factors or circumstances for having the justified discrimination. Okay, so what does it mean? So I have told you that equal protection of the law allows the state to do positive discrimination, means discrimination to protect someone. Okay, but according to Article 15 Clause 1, the only which conditions? The condition of religion, condition of race, condition of caste, condition of sex, condition of place of birth, or any of them, only these conditions. So only on these conditions are not sufficient for doing a discrimination under equal protection of the law. Okay, so if state want to discriminate between citizens under equal protection of the law, then these conditions, means religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them, they must be accompanied by some other factors. So now I will give you one example so that you can understand this very easily. So suppose there is a boy of upper caste. Okay, suppose there is a upper caste Brahmin and there is a boy who belongs to some very lower caste. Okay, so who belongs to some lower caste. Okay, so now according to Article 15 Clause 1, state cannot discriminate between a upper caste boy and a lower caste boy only on the ground that they belong to different caste. Okay, so then you will ask that, sir, why reservation is provided to some castes? It is because these castes are educationally and socially backward. Okay, so suppose the lower caste from which that person belong, from which the another person belong, if that caste is educationally backward, means the educational background of the people of that caste is very bad. They are highly uneducated. Okay, they are socially backward. Socially backward means people consider them Dalit or lower status. Okay, so if they are socially and educationally backward, suppose they even don't have money, means they are economically backward. Okay, so if they are socially backward, they are economically backward, they are educationally backward, so now state should help the people of that caste. Okay, and how state will help them? So definitely state will give them reservation. Okay, so state will say that, okay, if you will score only 90 marks, then also you can clear the exam, but a boy of upper caste has to score 100 marks. Why? Because you do not suffer these disadvantages. You are not educationally backward, you have good educational background. You are not socially backward, you have very good social status. You are also not economically backward, you have a good amount of money with you. Okay, so it means that state cannot differentiate, state cannot discriminate between the citizens of India only on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. If state wants to discriminate between the citizens under equal protection of the law, then these conditions, then these grounds must be accompanied by some other factor. Okay, for example, if some specific caste is educationally and socially backward, then only state can give them reservation. Okay, and state cannot give reservation to any caste only on the basis that that this caste is different and that caste is different. Okay, so I have given you the example of a upper caste Brahmin and a lower caste. So if a boy belong to upper caste and a boy belong to lower caste, then state cannot give the reservation to the boy of lower caste only on the ground that these two castes are different or this is a lower caste. State can give reservation when that lower caste is educationally backward, when it is socially backward. So these grounds should be accompanied with other things also. So when other things will accompany these grounds, then state can do discrimination. State cannot do discrimination only on these grounds, only on the ground of race, only on the ground of religion. So friends, you all must know that there is a movie. A movie was also inspired by this article 15. Okay, the title of the movie is Article 15. So it is actually a very good movie, and I think that movie is based on casteism. Okay, so if you will watch this movie, then you can imagine, you will come to know about the situation of casteism in India. Okay, and there is a disclaimer that I do not support that movie, I do not oppose that movie. I am just saying that a movie was inspired from this article, but I do not support it, I do not oppose it. Then comes Article 15 Clause 2. So what is Article 15 Clause 2? So Article 15 Clause 2 is no citizen shall on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them be subjected to any disability, liability, restriction, or condition with regard to, okay, with regard to access of shops, public restaurants, hotels, and places of public entertainment, or the use of bells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state's fund or dedicated to the use of general public. Okay, so what is the language of Article 15 Clause 2? So Article 15 Clause 2 says that no citizen shall on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them be subjected to any disability, liability, restrictions, or conditions with regard to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels, and places of public entertainment, or the use of bells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state's fund or dedicated to the use of general public. Now, what is the meaning of Article 15 Clause 2? So, Article 15 Clause 2 is bit technical. So, now what is the meaning? So, it means that no citizen means no citizen of India. Okay, no citizen of India shall be stopped. Okay, shall be stopped only on the grounds of his religion, his race, his caste, his sex, his place of birth, or any of them. Okay, so no citizen of India only on these grounds shall be stopped from going to any shop, from going to any restaurant, from going to any hotel, or from going to any place of public entertainment. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that no citizen of India can be stopped from going to any shop. No citizen of India can be stopped from going to any restaurant. No citizen of India cannot be stopped from going to any hotel or place of public entertainment. Okay, and on what grounds? Only on the grounds of his religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. Okay, now friends, government cannot stop you, means government cannot stop any citizen from going to any shop, public restaurant, hotel, place of public entertainment only on these grounds. And any other person, any other individual also cannot stop you from going to any shop, restaurant, hotel, place of public entertainment. And if they stop you, then you can directly file a case against them in the Supreme Court of the country. Okay, and then Supreme Court will give you the relief. Now friends, to explain you this more clearly, I will give you one example. So here friends, I do not want to take the name of any religion. So we will imagine two hypothetical religions. So suppose there are two religions. The name of first religion is religion A and the name of second religion is religion B. Okay. Now suppose there are two boys. One boy belong to religion A and another boy belong to religion B. So okay. Now people, or for example government. Okay, so government, so this right is also provided against government as well as this is provided against other individuals. Okay, so suppose, so now friends, state or any other individual, suppose what is happening, that people means in other peoples and the government are allowing the people of religion A, the boy of religion A, to enter into any shop, to enter into any public restaurant, to enter into any hotel, to enter into any place of public entertainment, but they are stopping deliberately. For example, the government is stopping or other people are stopping the boy of religion B from going to any shop, from going to any restaurant, hotel, or any place of public entertainment. Okay, so then we can say that the Article 15 Clause 2 of the boy of religion B is violated. Then this boy of religion B can directly approach to Supreme Court and file a legal case against the government or the persons who are stopping him from entering into public place. Okay, and then Supreme Court will punish the government or other individuals and give the relief to the boy of religion B. So this was the meaning of part A. Now we will study part B. So what is part B? The use of bells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state's fund or dedicated to the use of general public. Now what does it mean? So suppose there is a bell. Okay, bell means bell or a tank. Okay, so suppose there is any bell or tank or bathing ghat, road or anything. Okay, anything mentioned in this statement. For example, place of public resort. Okay, so now we will pick one thing and I will explain you this concept with the help of that thing. So suppose there is a bathing ghat. Suppose there is a well. Okay, and what happened, that well is maintained out of state's fund. Okay, so maintained out of state's fund means government is giving money for the maintenance of that well. Government is giving money for the cleaning of that well. Okay, and if it is dried up, then government is giving money to deep it more, to dig it more deep. Okay, means it is maintained out of government fund. So suppose, yeah, so when government is giving entire money, then also this provision is applied. And if government is giving some amount of money, means if government is wholly financing it or partly financing it, then also this provision is applied. Okay, so suppose suppose that the well is maintained out of the state's fund, means government is giving money for the maintenance of that well. Now what is happening, that suppose now we will take the example of two castes. Okay, now there is one upper caste and there is one lower caste, and we will not take the name of any caste. Okay, so what happened, the people of upper caste, okay, the people of upper caste claims their ownership over this well, and the people of upper caste are not allowing the people of lower caste to use the water of that well. So now we can say that the fundamental right under Article 15 Clause 2 of the people belonging to lower caste is violated. Why? Because the people of upper caste are stopping them from using the water of well. And as this well is not private, this well is maintained out of state's fund. State is giving money for the maintenance of this well. So every person of the India has the right to use the water of this well. So how a particular caste can stop some other caste to use the water of this well? Then the people of this lower caste, means the other caste, can directly approach to Supreme Court and file a legal case against the people of upper caste. Okay, and Supreme Court will definitely give them relief and punish the people of upper caste. So this was the meaning of Article 15 Clause 2. So what is Article 15 Clause 2 in short? Article 15 Clause 2 means that no citizen of India, no citizen means no citizen, whether he belongs to any religion, whether he belongs to any race, whether he belongs to any caste, upper caste, lower caste, whether he is Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, Parsi, Jain, okay, etc., etc., whether he is male or female, whether he belongs to Kashmir, Kanyakumari, okay. So no citizen of India, only on these grounds, cannot be stopped from going to any shop, from going to any public restaurant, from going to any hotel, from going to any place of public entertainment, for example cinema halls. Okay, and no citizen can be stopped from using the water of well, using the water of tank, using bathing ghats, using roads, using places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state's fund. Means if state is giving money for the maintenance of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, places of public resort, okay, or the places which are dedicated to the use of general public. So if government is giving them money, then even government cannot stop you from using these things, only on the grounds of your religion, sex, place of birth, caste, race, or any of them. Okay, so this was the meaning of Article 15 Clause 2. Now friends, Article 15 Clause 2, this article fight with untouchability along with Article 17. So Article 17 is a dedicated article for untouchability, but this article also fights with untouchability. So how it fights with untouchability? So suppose if I tell you the condition of some villages, so in some villages what happens, that some people belong to upper caste definitely, and some people belong to lower caste or Dalit. So people of upper caste consider some specific castes as untouchable, and they do not touch the people of these castes. Okay, and what they do, they consider that if the people of this particular caste use or touches the water of well, then the water will become contaminated, and then they will not use the water of that well. So they do not allow the people of that particular caste to use the water of that well. Now according to Article 15 Clause 2, even government cannot stop the people of any caste, any religion, any race, any caste, any sex, any place of birth from using the water of the well. Okay, so Article 15 Clause 2 also fights with untouchability. So if someone stops you from using the water of well which is maintained out of state's fund, okay, means it should be taken into consideration that it should be maintained out of state's fund, means government is giving money for the maintenance of that well, then nobody can stop you from using this. So it also fights untouchability. And it also fights many social evils like casteism. Definitely casteism is very strong in the villages of India. Okay, communalism, regionalism, gender discrimination. Okay, because in some places even women are considered impure. Okay, for example, I have given you the example of Sabrimala case. Okay, and we know that woman, who is woman? Woman is mother. Okay, and mother is supreme, definitely. So we should not consider women impure, but in some villages this happens. Even in many places, even in some cities, this happens. Okay, so this should not happen. So Article 15 Clause 2 also fights with these social evils. So friends, that's all for today. In next class we will continue our discussion. Tomorrow we will continue our discussion with Article 15 Clause 3. So friends, I have provided the link of notes in the description of the video, and you can also download the notes directly from my blog. You can also follow me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is PrashantIAS7. So friends, if you have enjoyed the lecture, so please like the video, use the comment section to give your valuable feedback. Share this channel to all the people you know who are preparing for UPSC. Subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you can get all the notifications whenever I upload the video. Okay, and actually from today onward I will upload the video daily. Okay, so from today onward I will upload the video lecture daily so that your course can be completed on time. So friends, till then, take care of yourself. Thank you.